"Excuse me, but this contract is a trap," said the black maid, and the Italian Mafia boss froze in shock. "I don't care who you are or how many men you have outside. This contract is designed to take everything from me." I slammed my palm on the document, my voice steadier than I felt as I stared into those piercing green eyes. "Did you think I wouldn't read the fine print just because you're threatening me?" The Italian Mafia boss's expression shifted from confidence to something I couldn't quite read. Surprise, perhaps even respect. The bodyguards behind him tensed, hands moving subtly toward concealed weapons. "No one has ever spoken to me like that," he said, his voice dangerously soft. I lifted my chin. "Then maybe it's about time someone did. Have you ever made one tiny mistake that completely upended your life? One moment of exhaustion that led to something you never could have imagined? That's exactly what happened to me when I sent a text to the wrong number and accidentally caught the attention of the most dangerous man in the city." The winter wind howled against the windows of my small bakery like a hungry beast, matching the churning anxiety in my stomach as I reviewed the final notice from the bank. The harsh fluorescent light cast shadows across the foreclosure warning. My third this month. The scent of cinnamon and vanilla still hung in the air, a bittersweet reminder of today's unsold pastries. I tucked a strand of hair behind my ear and sank deeper into the worn leather chair behind the counter. 4 years of pouring everything into this place. My savings, my dreams, my identity, and now it was slipping through my fingers like flour through a sieve. "Just need to make it through winter," I whispered to myself, calculating figures that refused to add up no matter how I arranged them. The heating system groaned in protest against December's bite, another repair I couldn't afford looming on the horizon. My phone chimed with a text from Oliver, my business partner who'd vanished 3 months ago, leaving me drowning in our shared debt. "Need more time. Working on big investment. Promise I'll have the money by Friday." I laughed bitterly. Another empty promise from a man who specialized in them. "The bank is foreclosing, Oliver. We needed that money last month. I know about the Valenti deal. Don't make me contact them directly." An idle threat. I knew nothing about Oliver's mysterious new investors beyond the name he'd mentioned during our last argument, when he'd sworn he was about to secure funding from people called Valenti, who would solve all our problems. I set my phone down and pressed my palms against my tired eyes. The lights flickered. Another bill I was behind on. That's when my phone buzzed with an unexpected response. "Who is this?" Different number. Not Oliver's. In my exhaustion, I'd messaged the wrong contact. Someone whose number I didn't recognize. "Sorry. Wrong person. Please ignore." The response was immediate. "What Valenti deal?" My stomach dropped. I should have left it alone, but exhaustion had worn away my better judgment. "Nothing. My business partner mentioned working with someone by that name." "My mistake." "Your name. Now." The demanding tone made my fingers hover uncertainly over the screen. Something felt wrong. Dangerous. I hesitated, then replied, "This was just a mix-up. I'm sorry to bother you." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. "Address." It wasn't a question. My hands began to tremble as I set the phone down without responding. Outside, the snow intensified, swirling against the windows with new urgency. I moved to the kitchen, needing the comfort of familiar surroundings. I began mindlessly kneading dough. The repetitive motion always calmed my nerves. Back at the counter, my phone buzzed again and again. I approached it cautiously, reading the messages without picking it up. "I already know who you are, Grace Bennett." My full name stared back at me from the screen. I hadn't given my name. 217 Maple Street. Sweet Grace Bakery. My address. My breath caught in my throat. "Your sourdough is particularly good, though your financial situation isn't." The phone slipped from my suddenly numb fingers, clattering to the counter. How could they possibly know about my bakery? About my financial troubles? I snatched it back up, hands shaking. My mind raced through possibilities. Was Oliver playing some twisted game? Had I stumbled into something dangerous? He'd always been secretive about his investors, but I'd assumed it was just another of his exaggerations. I peeked through the blinds, half expecting to see someone watching from the street. The snow-covered sidewalk reflected the golden glow of street lamps. Empty except for parked cars. I was being paranoid. Had to be. Then I saw it. A black Mercedes gleaming despite the snowfall. pulling up directly in front of my bakery. Its headlights extinguished, but the engine remained running, exhaust forming ghostly tendrils in the frigid air. As I watched, transfixed, another identical vehicle appeared, parking behind the first. Within minutes, 3 black luxury cars had surrounded my small corner bakery, forming an ominous perimeter. My phone buzzed in my hand. Coming in. Not a question or a request, a statement of fact. I backed away from the window, heart hammering against my ribs. The bakery's front door was locked, but in that moment I knew it wouldn't matter. The kind of person who could discover my name, my business, my financial situation within minutes of a mistaken text wouldn't be stopped by a simple lock. I considered calling the police, but what would I say? That I'd accidentally texted someone who now knew too much about me? That expensive cars were parked legally on a public street? The sound of a key turning in the lock froze me in place. I hadn't given anyone a key except Oliver. The door swung open, admitting a swirl of snowflakes and a tall figure in a charcoal overcoat. He entered unhurriedly, brushing snow from his shoulders with gloved hands. Behind him stood another man, broader, with watchful eyes that scanned every corner of my bakery. The first man removed his gloves, revealing elegant fingers and a signet ring that caught the light. His face remained in shadow until he stepped further into the bakery's warm glow. Sharp features, a strong jaw darkened with stubble, and eyes so intensely green they seemed to cut right through me, calculating, measuring, seeing everything. "Grace Bennett," he said, his voice a low rumble that sent warning signals racing along my spine. "Not a question, another statement of fact. I believe we need to discuss your relationship with Oliver Hayes." I gripped the counter for support, my knees threatening to buckle. "Who are you?" His lips curved into something too predatory to be called a smile. "My name is Miles Valenti, and your business partner has stolen something very valuable from my family." In that moment I realized my desperate text hadn't just reached the wrong number. It had reached the exact wrong person in the entire city. The man Oliver had robbed. The man whose name I'd so carelessly dropped. And now he was in my bakery with black cars surrounding the building and men who moved like shadows, all because of one mistaken text. I reached for the rolling pin on the counter. A reflexive, futile gesture. His hand shot out, grasping my wrist with effortless strength. Not hurting me, just preventing my movement. "That would be unwise," he said quietly. His eyes flicked around the bakery. "This is a lovely place. It would be a shame to damage it." The casual mention of my beloved bakery from his lips made my blood run cold. Was it a threat? Promise? The way he said it, like he could snap his fingers and erase everything I'd built, made my skin crawl. "I don't know anything about what Oliver did," I whispered, hating the tremor in my voice. "We've been estranged for months. He abandoned the business, left me with all the debt." Miles's gaze remained fixed on mine, searching for lies. "Yet you know enough to mention my name to threaten him with it." It was just a name he dropped once. Said he was working with important investors. I was desperate. My voice broke. "The bank is foreclosing." I was bluffing. Something shifted in his expression. Not softening exactly, but recalculating. The bodyguard's phone buzzed and he stepped away, murmuring responses too low for me to hear. "Hey, Miles asked, gesturing toward one of the small cafe tables, though it wasn't really a question. "Unless you'd prefer to have this conversation where someone passing by might see." As if summoned by his words, headlights swept across the front windows as a car drove slowly past. I nodded stiffly and he took a seat, his tall frame somehow elegant even in the simple wooden chair. I remained standing, needing the illusion of control. "What did Oliver take?" I asked, folding my arms across my chest. Miles unbuttoned his overcoat, a casual gesture that nonetheless made me acutely aware of the power imbalance between us, and met my eyes with unsettling directness. "Oliver Hayes didn't just take money from me, Grace. He took information that could destroy everything my family has built over generations. And you think I know where he is?" I laughed bitterly. "I've been trying to find him for months. He owes me as much as he owes you, apparently." "I don't think you know where he is," Miles replied, his voice surprisingly gentle. "But I think he'll come to you." "Why would he? He's abandoned everything here." Miles reached into his coat pocket and withdrew a small velvet box, placing it on the table between us. "Because of this." With trembling fingers I opened the box. Inside lay a diamond ring that caught the light in dazzling fractals. An engagement ring. Found in his apartment, Miles explained. Along with these. He slid several photographs across the table. Me working in the bakery. Me walking to my apartment above the shop. Me at the farmer's market selecting ingredients. Oliver has been watching you, Miles said, his voice tight with something that sounded almost like concern. Planning something. I sank into the chair opposite him, my legs suddenly unable to support me. I don't understand. I believe Oliver intends to use you as leverage. To offer you in exchange for his own safety. That's insane, I whispered, though the evidence before me, the ring, the photos, told a different story. Is it? Miles asked quietly. The man who abandoned you with crushing debt. Who disappeared when things became difficult. Who's been secretly photographing you for weeks. Put that way, it was harder to defend Oliver's character. The Oliver I thought I knew, charming, ambitious, if somewhat unreliable, seemed to be dissolving before my eyes, replaced by someone calculating and dangerous. There's more, Miles continued. He nodded to his bodyguard, who placed a laptop on the table and opened it. The screen showed security footage of Oliver entering a jewelry store, not to buy the ring on the table but to sell several pieces I recognized with a jolt. My grandmother's pearls. The antique brooch my mother had given me. Items I'd kept in a small jewelry box in my apartment above the bakery. Items I hadn't even realized were missing. He's been stealing from you gradually, Miles explained. Small things you might not immediately notice. Tears burned behind my eyes. All this time I'd been making excuses for Oliver, believing he'd return with the investment he promised, and now I discovered he'd been stealing from me, watching me, planning something I couldn't begin to comprehend. When? I managed to ask. When did he take these? The pearls 3 weeks ago. The brooch just last Thursday. Last Thursday. I'd been at the bakery all day, which meant Oliver had been in my apartment going through my things, while I was downstairs making bread and hoping he'd return with the money to save our business. Why show me this? I asked, wiping away a tear that had escaped despite my best efforts. Why not just grab him yourself? Because Oliver is clever, Miles said, leaning forward. He's gone to ground. But he's been watching you, which means he'll contact you eventually. And when he does, I want to be ready. You want to use me as bait, I said flatly. I prefer to think of it as a mutually beneficial arrangement. Miles's eyes never left mine. You help me catch Oliver, I help you with your financial difficulties. I laughed, a hollow sound. And if I refuse? Then I leave. Take my men with me. Remove the only protection standing between you and a man who's been stalking you for weeks. A man desperate enough to steal from the Valenti family. My gaze darted to the window, to the black vehicles still waiting outside. They no longer seemed threatening. They seemed like a barrier against something worse. What exactly are you proposing? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. You come with me tonight. I move you to a secure location. When Oliver contacts you, you arrange to meet him. My men will handle the rest. And my bakery? Will be here when this is over. Miles gestured around the space, though perhaps with fewer financial concerns. I studied him, trying to read the truth in those green eyes. Why should I trust you? Because unlike Oliver, I have no reason to lie to you. He leaned back in his chair. And because I'm offering you a way out of the mess he's created. I thought of the foreclosure notice, of the dwindling supplies, of the heating system that wouldn't last another week. Of Oliver, who I'd trusted, sneaking into my apartment to steal family heirlooms. I want guarantees, I said suddenly. If I help you find Oliver, I want your word that my bakery stays open. That the debt he left me with disappears. Miles studied me with newfound interest. You're negotiating with me now? I'm a business owner protecting what's mine, I countered. Isn't that something you can understand? A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Indeed. He considered for a moment, then nodded. Help me recover what was stolen, and I'll ensure your bakery not only survives but thrives. No more financial troubles. I'll need that in writing. Now he did smile, a genuine expression that transformed his features. A contract with a man like me? I'm not sure that would hold up in court, Grace. Maybe not, but it would show good faith. Very well. He gestured to his bodyguard, who produced a notepad. Miles wrote several lines in elegant script and signed it with a flourish before sliding it across to me. A simple promise to clear all debts and provide financial support for my bakery in exchange for my assistance. It was probably worthless legally, as he'd pointed out. But something told me Miles Valenti was a man who took his promises seriously. As I folded the paper and tucked it into my apron pocket, the bakery lights flickered once more. A reminder of all I stood to lose and perhaps unexpectedly all I might gain from one mistaken text that had changed everything. "Pack whatever you need," Miles said, rising from his chair. "We leave in 15 minutes. Now. Tonight." I glanced around my bakery, suddenly reluctant to leave it. "Oliver could be watching us at this very moment," Miles replied, his voice low. "The longer we stay, the more danger you're in." I wanted to argue, to insist on more time, but the weight of the photographs on the table stopped me. Oliver had been watching me for weeks. Had been in my apartment. Had stolen from me. The bakery suddenly felt exposed, vulnerable. 15 minutes, I agreed, already mentally cataloging what I would need. If you've ever had your trust completely shattered, you know that hollow feeling in your chest, like someone reached in and scooped out everything you thought was solid. That's how I felt as I climbed the stairs to my apartment above the bakery, knowing Oliver had violated this space, my sanctuary. But sometimes, the most unexpected people step in when your world falls apart. Even if those people happen to be dangerous men with green eyes and black Mercedes. I packed quickly, throwing clothes into a duffel bag without much thought to what I might need. My mind was still reeling from everything I'd learned. Oliver's betrayal. The photos. The stolen jewelry. And now this strange alliance with a man who radiated danger from every pore. When I came back downstairs, Miles was speaking quietly to his bodyguard. He looked up as I approached, his eyes taking in the small bag in my hand. "Is that everything?" he asked. I nodded, glancing around the bakery one last time. "What about tomorrow? I have orders to fill. Regular customers will notice if I'm suddenly gone. My associate will place a sign indicating a family emergency," Miles replied smoothly. "Your regulars will understand." Family emergency. The irony wasn't lost on me. The closest thing I had to family in this city was Oliver, and he'd betrayed me in ways I was still struggling to comprehend. "Ready?" Miles asked, holding out his hand for my bag. I hesitated, then handed it over. "As I'll ever be." Outside, the snow had intensified, fat flakes swirling in the glow of the street lamps. One of the black Mercedes idled at the curb, its engine a low, powerful hum. A driver held the back door open as we approached. "After you," Miles said, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. I slid into the back seat, the leather cold against my jeans. Miles followed, settling beside me with a grace that seemed effortless. The door closed with a solid thunk that sounded final, irrevocable. "Where are we going?" I asked as the car pulled away from the curb. "Somewhere safe," was all Miles said. We rode in silence for several minutes, the only sounds the purr of the engine and the occasional swish of the wipers clearing snow from the windshield. I watched as familiar streets gave way to neighborhoods I rarely visited, wealthier areas where the houses sat back from the road behind wrought iron gates and manicured hedges. "You're very calm," Miles observed, breaking the silence. "Most people would be hysterical by now." I turned to look at him, really look at him for the first time. In the dim light of the car, his features were softer, less intimidating. "I'm saving my hysteria for when I have the luxury of falling apart," I replied honestly. "Right now, I'm just trying to process." He nodded as if this made perfect sense. "A practical approach. What exactly did Oliver take from you?" I asked, unable to contain my curiosity any longer. "You said information, but what kind?" Miles's expression hardened. "Financial records. Client lists. Details of certain business arrangements that could be damaging in the wrong hands. Blackmail material," I translated. "Among other things." His gaze was steady. "My family's business interests are diverse and complex." "And illegal?" I couldn't help asking. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Not all of them. The Valenti Group has legitimate holdings in real estate, shipping, and private equity. And the illegitimate ones? Are none of your concern, Grace." His tone made it clear the subject was closed. "All you need to know is that Oliver Hayes has put himself, and by extension you, in a very dangerous position. I turned back to the window, watching as we passed through an ornate gate that opened automatically at our approach. A long driveway curved through what appeared to be extensive grounds, though the snow made it difficult to see much beyond the immediate area illuminated by the car's headlights. Then the house came into view and I couldn't suppress a gasp. House was an understatement. It was a mansion, modern and sleek, all glass and stone, lit up against the night sky like something from a magazine. "Welcome to my home," Miles said as the car came to a stop in a circular driveway. "For now it's yours too." The interior was exactly what I expected and nothing like I imagined. Soaring ceilings, marble floors, artwork that probably cost more than my entire bakery, all the trappings of wealth I'd anticipated. But there was also an understated elegance, a warmth I hadn't expected from a man like Miles. No gaudy displays of excess, just quiet, confident luxury. A woman in her 50s with silver-streaked dark hair appeared in the foyer as we entered. Her posture was impeccable, her clothing simple but clearly expensive. "Miles," she said, her slight accent wrapping around his name with familiar affection. Her eyes moved to me, curious but not unkind. "Lucia, this is Grace Bennett," Miles said, handing my bag to a waiting staff member. "She'll be staying with us for a while. Please prepare the East Wing guest suite." Of course. Lucia's expression gave nothing away, but I wondered how often Miles brought strangers to his home in the middle of the night. "Dinner. Please. Something light." Miles glanced at me. "Unless you'd prefer to rest?" The mention of food reminded me that I hadn't eaten since a hasty lunch between batches of bread. "Dinner would be nice," I admitted. "The small dining room then," Lucia said with a nod, already turning to give instructions to another staff member. Miles led me through the house, past rooms glimpsed only briefly. A formal living room, a library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, what appeared to be a home theater. We ended up in a space that he called the small dining room, though it was larger than my entire apartment. "I apologize for the abruptness of all this," Miles said as we sat at one end of a table that could easily seat 12. "But time is of the essence." "Because Oliver might run?" I asked. "Because Oliver might sell what he stole to someone else." Miles's expression was grim. "There are others who would pay handsomely for the information he has." "Like who?" "The Bratva for one. The Russian organization has been trying to gain a foothold in our territory for years." "Our territory." The casual way he referred to the city as if it belonged to his family sent a chill through me. "And if they get this information, then a lot of people get hurt." Miles's eyes met mine, including innocent bystanders. Before I could respond, Lucia appeared with two staff members carrying trays. They set before us a simple but elegant meal: pasta with a light cream sauce, a salad of bitter greens and citrus, warm bread that reminded me painfully of my bakery. "Thank you," I said as they departed, leaving us alone again. Miles poured wine from a decanter, the rich red liquid catching the light. "To unexpected alliances," he said, raising his glass. I hesitated, then lifted my own. "To getting what we both want." His eyes darkened at my words, and for a moment something passed between us. A current of awareness that had nothing to do with Oliver or stolen information or business arrangements. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket, breaking the moment. I pulled it out, my heart stuttering when I saw the name on the screen. Oliver. Miles set down his glass, instantly alert. "Him." I nodded, turning the phone so he could see. A text message glowed on the screen. "Grace, we need to talk. It's not what you think. Meet me tomorrow? Please." "Perfect timing," Miles murmured, a predatory smile spreading across his face. "Now we set the trap." I stared at the message, conflicting emotions warring within me. Anger at Oliver's betrayal. Fear of what might happen next. And underneath it all, a strange exhilaration at being part of whatever game was unfolding. "What do I say?" I asked, looking up at Miles. His eyes met mine, intense and focused. "Tell him yes. Tell him you're scared. Tell him you need his help." He leaned forward. "Make him think he's still in control." I took a deep breath and began to type, aware that with each word, I was drawing Oliver closer to a confrontation that might not end well for him. And the strangest part? I wasn't sure I cared. Have you ever found yourself caught between your past and a dangerous, uncertain future? That moment when you realize the person you trusted most has betrayed you, and your only ally is someone you should probably fear? If you're enjoying this wild ride so far, hit that like button and subscribe to Serafina's stories for more tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Now let's see what happens when the trap is set. I typed carefully, each word calculated to draw Oliver in. I'm scared, Oliver. Strange men came to the bakery asking about you. What have you done? I need to understand. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Riverside Park by the old boathouse. Miles read over my shoulder, nodding in approval. Perfect. Vulnerable but not desperate. He'll come. I hit send, then set my phone down, my appetite suddenly gone. What happens when he shows up? My men will be in position. We'll let him approach you, get comfortable. Then we move in. Miles took a sip of his wine, seemingly unconcerned. Clean, quick, minimal fuss. And then what happens to him? I asked, not entirely sure I wanted the answer. Miles studied me for a moment. That depends on him. If he cooperates, returns everything he took, he might walk away from this. Bruised but breathing. And if he doesn't? His silence was answer enough. I should have felt horrified. Should have protested. Instead, I felt a cold detachment as I thought of the photos, the stolen jewelry, the evidence of Oliver's willingness to use me as a pawn in his dangerous game. I don't want to know, I finally said. Whatever happens, I don't want details. Miles nodded once, accepting my tacit consent. Fair enough. My phone buzzed again. Oliver's reply, thank God. I've been so worried about you. There's so much I need to explain. I'll be there. Stay safe until then. I showed Miles the message, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. He's been worried about me, while stealing my grandmother's pearls and photographing me without my knowledge. Men like Oliver are skilled at convincing themselves they're the heroes of their own stories, Miles said, his tone surprisingly gentle. He probably has a whole narrative where everything he did was for your benefit somehow. You sound like you speak from experience. A shadow crossed his face. I've known my share of self-deluded men. In my line of work, you learn to recognize them. We finished our meal in companionable silence. Afterward, Lucia appeared to show me to my room. A suite larger than my entire apartment, decorated in soothing shades of blue and cream, with a bathroom that featured a shower big enough for 4 people and a tub I could practically swim in. There are clothes in the dresser that should fit, Lucia informed me. If you need anything else, use the house phone by the bed. Thank you, I said, overwhelmed by the luxury surrounding me. This is very generous. Lucia's expression softened slightly. Miles takes care of those under his protection. She hesitated, then added, whatever has brought you here, you are safe now. After she left, I explored my gilded cage. The windows overlooked snow-covered gardens illuminated by subtle landscape lighting. And beyond them, a high wall topped with what I suspected was security wiring. No escape there, not that I was planning one. I showered, letting the hot water wash away some of the tension of the day, then found a silk nightgown in the dresser that fit surprisingly well. As I slid between sheets that probably cost more than a month's worth of flour for my bakery, I wondered how my life had changed so dramatically in the span of a few hours. One mistaken text. That's all it had taken to bring me from the brink of financial ruin to the guest suite of a mafia boss's mansion. The absurdity of it made me laugh out loud in the darkness. Sleep came in fitful bursts, interrupted by dreams of Oliver watching me through windows, of black cars circling my bakery like sharks. When morning light finally filtered through the gauzy curtains, I felt as if I hadn't slept at all. A soft knock at the door roused me fully. Lucia entered with a breakfast tray and a garment bag. Miles thought you might prefer to eat in private this morning, she explained, setting the tray on a small table near the window. He's arranged clothes for today's meeting. The way she said meeting made it clear she knew exactly what was planned. Thank you, I said, eyeing the garment bag curiously. Miles will meet you downstairs at noon to go over the details. With that, she departed, leaving me alone with my thoughts and a breakfast that would have put my bakery's best offerings to shame. The clothes in the garment bag were not what I expected. Instead of something dramatic or overtly sexy, Miles had chosen items that looked like my usual style, only more expensive. Dark jeans that fit perfectly, a soft cashmere sweater in a deep blue, leather boots that were both practical and elegant. At noon, I found Miles in what appeared to be his office. A masculine space of leather and dark wood, with windows overlooking the snow-covered grounds. "Did you sleep well?" he asked, looking up from his desk. "As well as can be expected," I replied honestly. He nodded, understanding without needing explanation. "We should discuss the plan for today." For the next hour, Miles laid out every detail: where I would wait, where his men would be positioned, the signals I should watch for. It was methodical, precise, leaving nothing to chance. "What if he doesn't come alone?" I asked. "We're prepared for that possibility," Miles assured me. "My men will be watching all approaches. If Oliver brings friends, we adjust accordingly." "And if they're Russian friends?" Miles's expression hardened. "Then we move more aggressively." By the time we left for Riverside Park, my nerves were stretched to breaking point. The park was nearly empty, the recent snowfall keeping most people indoors. The old boathouse stood like a ghost against the white landscape, its weathered wood the only color in a world of white and gray. "Remember," Miles said as we parked a discreet distance away, "just keep him talking. Get him to admit what he took, where it is now. My men will do the rest." I nodded, my mouth too dry for words. "Take this," he said, handing me a small device that looked like a button. "Panic button. Press it if anything feels wrong." I slipped it into my pocket, oddly touched by his concern. "I'll be right here," Miles assured me, his green eyes intense. "Nothing will happen to you." The walk to the boathouse felt like the longest of my life. Each crunch of snow under my boots echoed in the stillness. I positioned myself where Miles had instructed, partially visible from the main path but with the boathouse at my back. And then I waited. Oliver appeared exactly on time, hurrying along the path with his collar turned up against the cold. He looked thinner than I remembered, his usually perfect hair disheveled, dark circles under his eyes. For a moment I felt a pang of sympathy, until I remembered the photos, the stolen jewelry, the lies. "Grace," he called, relief evident in his voice. "Thank God you're okay." I didn't move as he approached, keeping my expression neutral. "Am I okay, Oliver? Because from where I'm standing, nothing about this situation is okay." He reached for my hands but I stepped back. Hurt flashed across his face. "I know you're angry. Angry doesn't begin to cover it." I cut him off. "You abandoned the bakery. Left me drowning in debt. And then I find out you've been stealing from me? Watching me." His eyes widened. "How did you?" "The pearls, Oliver. My mother's brooch. Did you think I wouldn't notice?" "I can explain," he said quickly, glancing around nervously. "I needed collateral. These people, the Valentis, they're dangerous, Grace. More dangerous than you can imagine." "So you stole from me? Photographed me without my knowledge?" "To protect you," he insisted, stepping closer. "I needed leverage insurance. If they thought I cared about you, that I might be planning something with you, they'd leave you alone if things went wrong." I stared at him, incredulous. "That makes absolutely no sense. Because you don't understand what's at stake." His voice rose, desperation evident. "I found something, Grace. Something big. Information that could take down the entire Valenti operation." "So you did steal from them," I said flatly. "Borrowed," he corrected, his eyes darting around the park again. "I borrowed information that could set us up for life. No more struggling bakery, no more counting pennies. We could go anywhere, be anyone." "We," I repeated, disbelief coloring my tone. Oliver reached into his pocket and pulled out the velvet box I'd seen at Miles's house. "I was going to ask you. Before all this went sideways. I had it all planned." As he opened the box, revealing the diamond ring, movement caught my eye. Men in dark coats converging from multiple directions. Miles's men right on cue. Oliver saw my gaze shift and spun around. His face drained of color. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no. What have you done, Grace?" "What have I done?" I echoed, anger surging through me. "What have you done, Oliver? You stole from dangerous people, then stole from me, spied on me, and now you have the audacity to act betrayed." Oliver's eyes darted frantically between the approaching men and me, his hand closing around the ring box. "You don't understand. I did it for us." "There is no us," I said coldly. "There never really was." He lunged forward suddenly, grabbing my arm with bruising force. "We're leaving. Now." Before I could react, he yanked me against him, his other hand moving to his waistband to reveal something I'd never expected. A gun. "Nobody move," he shouted, pressing the barrel against my ribs. I'll kill her. I swear I will. Miles's men froze, hands hovering near their own weapons. My heart hammered against my chest, fear replacing anger in an instant. Oliver, I whispered, what are you doing? Surviving, he hissed in my ear. Like I've always done. He began backing away, dragging me with him toward the boathouse. Anyone follows, she dies. This wasn't part of the plan. Miles had assured me Oliver would come peacefully, that he was a coward at heart. But the man gripping my arm, pressing a gun to my side, wasn't the charming, somewhat flaky business partner I'd known. This was someone else entirely, desperate, dangerous, unpredictable. As Oliver pulled me into the shadowy interior of the boathouse, I remembered the panic button in my pocket. Slowly, carefully, I slid my free hand toward it. Don't even think about it, Oliver snapped, noticing the movement. He shoved me against a wall, patting down my pockets until he found the device. Clever. But not clever enough. He crushed it under his heel, then grabbed my arm again. We're going out the back. There's a car waiting. You planned this, I realized. You knew it was a trap. A bitter laugh escaped him. Of course I knew. You think I didn't have people watching the bakery? I saw Valenti arrive last night. So you leave with him. His fingers dug painfully into my arm. I just didn't expect you to betray me so completely. Like you betrayed me? I shot back. Stealing my family heirlooms? Photographing me without my knowledge. I was going to give it all back. Once we were safe, once we had enough money. Stop lying, Oliver. Just stop. Something in my tone must have reached him because he fell silent, his grip on my arm loosening slightly. It wasn't supposed to be like this, he said after a moment, his voice smaller. I had a plan. It was perfect. What was on the drive, Oliver? I asked quietly. What did you take from the Valentis? He hesitated, then, everything. Client lists. Financial records. Evidence of bribes, blackmail, murders. Enough to destroy them 10 times over. And you thought they'd just let you walk away with it? I thought I'd be smart enough to disappear before they knew it was missing. His laugh was hollow. Turns out I overestimated myself. A noise from outside made him tense. Voices approaching, footsteps. We need to move, he said, pulling me toward the back door. Yow. But as we reached it, the door swung open, revealing a figure I didn't recognize. A tall, broad-shouldered man with cold eyes and a scar running down one cheek. Oliver Hayes, the man said, his accent thick and Eastern European. We've been looking for you. Oliver stumbled back, dragging me with him. Petrov, he breathed, fear evident in his voice. The man, Petrov, smiled, revealing a gold tooth. The Valentis aren't the only ones you've disappointed. His gaze shifted to me. And who is this? Leverage? Or just a shield? She's nothing, Oliver said quickly. Just a business partner. She knows nothing. Then you won't mind if we dispose of her, Petrov replied casually, reaching inside his coat. No. Oliver shouted, raising his gun. She's valuable. To the Valentis. They want her. Petrov paused, reassessing. Is that so? I stood frozen, caught between Oliver's desperate grip and this new, terrifying threat. Where was Miles? Had his men retreated when Oliver took me hostage? As if in answer to my unspoken question, a voice rang out from the shadows of the boathouse. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Petrov. Miles stepped into view, a gun held casually at his side. Unlike Oliver's panicked grip on his weapon, Miles looked completely at ease, as if the gun were simply an extension of his arm. Valenti, Petrov acknowledged, his smile never wavering. This is an unexpected pleasure. Let the woman go, Miles said, his voice deadly calm. This is between us and Hayes. I think not, Petrov replied. It seems she has value. And I find myself in need of negotiating tools. Oliver's grip on me tightened. Nobody's taking her anywhere. She's my ticket out of here. I'd had enough. These men were talking about me like I was a commodity, a bargaining chip to be passed between them. Anger surged through me again, burning away fear. Excuse me, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, but I am not a negotiating tool. I'm not leverage. And I'm certainly not Oliver's ticket anywhere. All 3 men looked at me in surprise. Grace, Miles warned, now is not the time. It's exactly the time, I cut him off. Because while you've all been posturing and threatening each other, none of you noticed what I've been doing. I held up my phone, which I'd managed to extract from my pocket during their exchange. On the screen was a live call, to the police. I've been broadcasting this entire conversation, I bluffed, praying they wouldn't call me on it. The police have your names, your voices, and confessions to various crimes. They're on their way now. Petrov's smile vanished. Oliver's grip on my arm slackened in shock. And Miles looked at me with something that might have been admiration. She's bluffing, Oliver said, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. Are you willing to take that chance? I challenged. Because I've got nothing to lose at this point. The standoff stretched for what felt like eternity. Then sirens wailed in the distance. Pure coincidence, but perfectly timed. Petrov cursed in what sounded like Russian. This isn't over, Valenti, he spat before backing toward the door he'd entered through. Oliver's moment of distraction was all Miles needed. He moved with startling speed, crossing the space between us and wrenching Oliver's arm up and away from me. The gun clattered to the floor as Miles slammed Oliver against the wall, his forearm pressed against the younger man's throat. The drive, Miles demanded. Where is it? Go to hell, Oliver gasped. Miles increased the pressure. The drive, Hayes. Now. Oliver's eyes bulged. Coat. Inside pocket. Miles reached into Oliver's coat with his free hand, extracting a small flash drive. He pocketed it, then released some of the pressure on Oliver's throat. Thank you for your cooperation, he said coldly. The sirens were getting closer. Miles glanced at me. We need to leave. Now. What about him? I asked, nodding toward Oliver, who was slumped against the wall, gasping for breath. He stays, Miles said simply. Let the police deal with him. Breaking and entering, assault, kidnapping, he'll be occupied for quite some time. He took my arm, gently, so different from Oliver's bruising grip, and led me toward a side door I hadn't noticed before. Outside, one of his black Mercedes was waiting, engine running. Get in, he urged, opening the door for me. I hesitated, looking back at the boathouse. The police. We'll find a man with an illegal weapon who assaulted his former business partner, Miles finished. Nothing more. I knew I should stay, should tell the police everything. About the Valentis, about Petrov, about the stolen information. But what would that accomplish except to put me in even more danger? I got in the car. As we pulled away, Miles finally spoke. That was either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Maybe both, I admitted. But it worked. He glanced at me, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Indeed it did. We rode in silence for several minutes before I asked the question that had been burning in my mind. What happens now? To the bakery? To me. Miles considered this. The bakery will be fine. As promised, your debts will be cleared. As for you, he turned to face me fully. That depends on what you want, Grace. What I want. You've proven yourself resourceful, quick-thinking, loyal to those who earn it. His green eyes held mine. Those are qualities I value. There could be a place for you in my organization if you wanted it. I stared at him, stunned. You're offering me a job? In the Mafia. He laughed, the sound surprisingly warm. The Valenti Group has many legitimate business interests, as I mentioned. Including, as it happens, a chain of high-end bakeries that could benefit from your expertise. And the illegitimate ones? Would remain separate from your involvement. His expression grew serious. I protect what's mine, Grace. And I find myself reluctant to let you go. The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it awakened something I'd thought long dead after Oliver's betrayal. A sense of being truly seen, valued. I'll need time to think about it, I said honestly. Of course. He nodded, professional distance restored. The offer remains open. As we passed through the gates of his estate, I thought about how much had changed in 24 hours. One mistaken text had brought a dangerous man to my door, black cars surrounding my bakery. But in that danger I'd found an unexpected ally. And perhaps in time something more. I sent a silent thank you to whatever twist of fate had led me to text the wrong number. Sometimes, our biggest mistakes lead us exactly where we need to be. Have you ever had a moment when everything changed in an instant? When one small decision altered the entire course of your life? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this tale of danger, betrayal, and unexpected alliances, please hit that like button and subscribe to Seraphina's stories for more adventures that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Until next time, remember that sometimes the wrong number might just be exactly the right one.